You know, every single piece of tech you touch, your phone, your computer, heck, even your car, it all starts with a semiconductor chip. But behind all the famous brands are these hidden giants, the companies that build the crazy complex machinery to actually make those chips. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and dive into the financial story of these absolute titans of the fabrication plant.
You really have to think of the semiconductor industry as the biggest gold rush in history. I mean, the demand for more powerful chips is just endless. And you know the old saying, right? In a gold rush, the surest way to get rich isn't digging for gold. It's selling the picks and shovels. Well, that is exactly what these three companies do. And just look at the proof right here. I mean, we all know how well the NASDAQ has done. An 83% return in 5 years is pretty amazing. But the semiconductor sector, it's almost doubled that, with a staggering 162% growth. That is the massive wave lifting this entire industry.
But, okay, here's where it gets kind of mind-blowing. The companies selling the shovels, Applied Materials, Lam Research, and KLA, they haven't just ridden that wave, they've been their own tidal wave. Their returns just completely dwarf the rest of the sector. We're talking 203%, 277%, and for KLA, a jaw-dropping 394%. It just goes to show you, they are the biggest winners in this whole gold rush.
So how are they so successful? Well, the secret is to stop thinking of them as direct competitors. Seriously. Instead, you got to see them as three different characters, each one playing a totally unique and totally essential role in the epic story of making a chip.
So let's meet our heroes, shall we? First up, we've got Applied Materials, AMAT. We'll call them the Generalist. They do a little bit of everything. Then you've got Lam Research, LRCX, the Specialist, who focuses like a laser on a few super-critical steps. And finally, KLA Corporation, KLAC, who we'll call the Detective. Their whole job is to find the tiniest little flaws that could ruin everything. And trust me, these roles are the key to understanding all the numbers that are about to follow.
Okay, now we get to the really cool part. We're going to see how these character types, the Generalist, the Specialist, and the Detective, translate directly into their financial DNA. Each company's role literally writes its own financial story. All right, so first question on everyone's mind, who's the biggest? I mean, who brings in the most cash?
And no surprise here, the answer is the Generalist. Applied Materials, because it has its hands in so many different pots, naturally has the highest revenue. We're talking over $27 billion. Its sheer breadth gives it a scale that the other two just can't match.
Okay, so AMT is the biggest. But you know, biggest doesn't always mean most profitable. So which one of these companies is the best at turning every dollar of sales into actual profit? And this is where our Detective KLA just shines. Think about it. If you're spending billions of dollars on a chip factory, you have to know if your product is perfect. KLA's job is not optional. And because they're so essential, they have incredible pricing power, which leads to a massive 60% gross margin. That is the definition of a strong competitive moat.
So how do they keep that edge? Well, they invest big time. You'll notice here that the more focused companies, or Specialist and or Detective, have to pour a higher percentage of their money back into R&D, about 13%. They have to do this to stay on the absolute bleeding edge of their niche. The Generalist, M8, still spends the most actual dollars, but its broad focus means it's a smaller piece of its overall pot.
So we've seen their size and their profitability. But now let's look at how they turn all of that into something even more important, efficiency, and how good they are at making money for their shareholders.
And this right here is a real wow moment. All three of these companies are world-class when it comes to return on equity, but KLA's is just off the charts at 88.4%. And get this, last year it peaked at over 131%. A number that high is just, it's in a league of its own.
Seriously, a return that high almost looks like a typo. It makes you wonder, how on earth is that even possible? What's the secret sauce?
The answer, in one word, is leverage. KLA strategically uses more debt than the others to juice its returns. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Whoa, debt, that sounds risky. But check this out. They balance that debt with a massive $4.5 billion cash pile. This isn't a reckless gamble. It's a very calculated, very smart financial strategy.
And that brings us to a super important point about all three of these companies. These are not speculative, pie-in-the-sky growth stocks. Nope. These are mature, incredibly profitable, cash-printing machines. And as you can see here, they prove it by consistently returning billions of dollars to their shareholders through dividends and stock buybacks. That's a sign of real strength and confidence.
All right, let's pull this all together.
We've looked at their roles, we've looked at the numbers one by one. Now let's put them all side by side for the final scorecard.
And here it is. This scorecard lays it all out perfectly. You've got the Generalist, AMAT, dominating on pure size. The Specialist, LRCX, showing this great balance of growth and profit. And then the Detective, KLAC, standing out with those insane margins and that jaw-dropping return on equity. You can literally see each company's personality written right here in its financial DNA.
So what's the big takeaway here? If you remember nothing else, remember these three things. 1, they are elite outperformers. 2, their unique roles give them unique financial signatures. And 3, they are financial fortresses, built to last and reward their owners.
And really, this quote from the source analysis just nails the core idea of this whole explainer. Their strength doesn't come from fighting each other. It comes from each one completely dominating their own essential piece of the puzzle. Their differences are what make them so powerful.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As technology like AI makes chips exponentially more complicated to build, it just begs the question, how much more essential and how much more valuable are the Generalist, the Specialist, and the Detective going to become in the years ahead?